Picked up an AWA mini disc slash CD player today for a pretty good price off Facebook Marketplace. I figured, well, for this I can't go wrong, but maybe I did go wrong because after a little bit of an inspection, it looks like somebody else has already been into this thing. So I don't know if the damage has been caused by them or just a failure, but we'll take a shot at it. But I may have got burned this time. Let's check it out. Check what I picked up. AWA XR-MD 110 mini disc recorder CD player. Picked this up for a song, literally. And I'm told that the mini disc does not work. We'll check everything else out here. How's the tuner looking? Turn it on. Power, how do I turn this thing on? Tuner, okay. Better not have the volume up all the way. Okay. Well, it's picking up my little test transmitter. So we know that that part works. How about CD? It has a CD player. And we'll check the CD player out. Uses a KSS 2130, so that's a Sony pickup. And CD. Play. That part works. Does it play? A question, does it play MP3 CDs? That'd be a bonus if it does. Let's try an MP3 disc on here. I guess I'm supposed to press that to close it as well. How cool is that? It closes itself. Okay, let's see. Will it play MP3 or is it just audio CD? I think it's just audio CD. Yes, it's just audio CD. The counter is moving, but there's no sound. So it's audio CD only, and of course mini disc. And I've been told that the mini disc does not work. So I'm going to believe them that the mini disc doesn't work. Well, it does suck the disc in. So table of content readings. Is this thing going to work? Mecha error is what comes up. So mecha error. So nothing's going to play. Is it going to give me my disc back now, or has it eaten my disc? I think it just ate my disc. And now it turns right off. How do we do this? How do we work this thing? It's almost like it's in a clock setting mode. I'll power cycle it. Well, I guess I got to take it apart to get my disc out because it doesn't want to release my disc. All right, let's take this thing apart. First thing I've noticed is that this screw here looks like it's been removed because it had a seal over it. So someone may have been into this thing already. Pretty obvious already because those screws are not the right screws. The ones that go in there are actually countersunk screws. all the screws are wrong, so I know someone's been into the unit.
This one's also rated at 100 volts, not 120. It may have had something to do with it failing, because it's for a Japanese market. Although the regulators inside it should be able to handle that extra couple volts, because once it stepped down to, from 120 down to 12 volts, you'd only be seeing a few extra volts, where it wouldn't be seeing a whole bunch of extra volts on here.
The primary of the power transformer certainly would, as would anything that's unregulated would see over voltage though in this situation. So it's best to run it on 100 volts. Otherwise you're asking for trouble.
Heavy little sucker, this thing. Guess to take the sides off, I gotta take out some more screws. Different screws put in here that were from the original. Some of them they've threaded in metal screws, other ones they've got plastic screws threaded into metal. So somebody's been into this thing here. It may not be repairable, but again, I took a chance because it was cheap. And it may end up just going to the bin. But we'll try. We'll see whether it can be made to work. I'm not holding my breath. Don't even know how to get into this thing yet. Back should pop off. There we go. There's the back cover. One thing that's not going to like those extra volts is the power transformer for the standby and the main power transformer. They are not going to like the extra volts. So something like this really should be operated with a transformer to step the voltage down. Or turn the voltage down on my Variac, which I will when I plug it in the next time. I will power it up at 100 volts instead of 120. A couple more screws here, it looks like, on the side, and then the side cover should pop off. Pulls back. There we go. That's the two side panels off. Look at the density of the boards on this thing. Whoa, what do we got here? Oh, it looks like tape maybe that was stuck on there. Looks like some of that rubberized tape has deteriorated. This is the mini disc players on this side. Should be able to pop off the front. Front cover should pop off. This whole top section will probably lift off if I'm not careful. The whole CD player will lift off. Yes, it will. I don't want to know what that is. That's a broken wire. That's what that is. It's two wires that were joined together. Looks like someone's cut it, and they put some heat shrink tubing on it when they put the wire back together. You see, someone just cut that wire because they needed to take the front off. So we know that this has been into, for sure, someone's been into this one. Here's our mini disc mechanism down here. I want to get at that at least to get my disc out and maybe try cleaning up the pickup. Unplug that. And unplug this one. And unplug this one here. Okay, now, and of course that front ribbon unplugged for me. Alright, okay, here's the mini disc mechanism. I'm wondering if it's a belt that's melted on here. Probably more than that, but we got to start somewhere. And I do want to get the disc out that's in here, as it did eat my disc. Then it came up with a mecha error. So it could be something as simple as a slipping belt and the disc not fully loading. Again, that's just a guess because I've never been into one of these units before. To see if any of the screws are missing from the mechanism here. Oh, you know what? Those ones don't come out. These ones do. I guess those ones come out too, but those are what hold the they hold the mechanism into this cage. So I got to take the cage out. And then the mechanism's accessible at that point. Undo this connector, and this should lift out. Should. Doesn't mean it will, but it should lift out. Just like that. Okay, there's the mini disc mechanism out of the unit. Now if I remove this other screw that's holding this top cover, or this mechanism in place, actually I can remove the top cover. I'm curious as to the condition of the belt. That's what I'm curious. Because I'm sure there is one on here that could be melted. Remember that flat mini disc player I was given there last year? A couple of years ago. That still works. Okay. What lifts off of this now? I've got to undo these two. Now I can lift this top cover off. Is there a belt? There's no belt on this. Interesting. It is full of SMD caps, so that could be the problem for the mini disc portion. The laser also looks to be pretty dirty. Disc like this, and then it grabs the disc and sucks the disc in. That lowers the recording head down for recording. You can see that. You get a close-up of how this thing operates. So there's no belt, it's a direct drive. The disc goes in, you push the disc in, it grabs the disc, it should drop it down, or maybe the mechanism below pops up. I think the mechanism below probably goes up. Just going to take a look and see. Yes, mechanism below pops up to make contact with the disc. And then if this continues to turn, then it lowers down the recording head to make a recording, or to write the table of contents. And then it raises it up off of the disc for normal playback. Continue to turn it and it lowers the mechanism and then ejects the disc. The laser here looks to be pretty dirty. The lens, look at the lens. The lens here looks to be pretty dirty, see? So I think first things first, we'll wipe off the lens and try it, and if not, then we'll dig into those surface mounted caps on the bottom of the board. The thing is, I got to put it all back together in order to test it, but we'll start by cleaning the lens. That looks a little cleaner. Now I should probably check out the caps on the bottom here if I can. Well, I've got this board apart here. Well, I got the unit apart. I'll just pull that getting grease all over me from the mechanism here. Disconnect that ribbon cable. There's a couple ribbon cables. Oh, I've got one more screw to take out here. It might help. I want to check the caps on here just while I'm at it, just save myself putting it back together and taking it apart yet again, right? So lift this off, and I got to unplug a ribbon cable. Where do I have to unplug it? There's a couple of them. There's two of them that are plugged in here. One that's kind of glued down. I don't want to damage it. I always get nervous when I deal with these ribbon cables because they're so short and easy to damage. So we'll just unplug the recording head here. That's the first one, and the second one is this one here, going to the optical pickup. We'll just undo that one. I should probably have put the shorting clip on there first. Maybe we will before anything gets touched. Undo that one. Now, if I don't touch anything, we might be okay. Normally you would put, before you touch the pickup, you put the short on there, right? But we won't touch that. Touch anything near that. Alright, so we've got these blasted surface mounted craps on this board. Remove the board from the base first, and then we'll measure these craps and see how bad they are. We'll change them out as required if I've got them. At this point, I don't know what shape the caps are in. I'm assuming that some of them are bad. Maybe they're not, but we'll measure the ESR and just see whether they are bad. Heat transfer. Cooling system on my car is starting to fire up. You can hear it charging the battery. Alright, how's this one look? That one there looks to be 1.4. That's probably okay. .7, that was probably okay. 2 ohms. What value is this? It's a 22 at 6 volts, so 5.4. This one's measuring 2.8, so that's okay. How about this one here? That one's measuring a little bit high. Measuring not too bad. 8.2, that's a 10 microfarad. That's a 10 at 16. 8 ohms, so that's pretty close to what a new one would be expected to be, so I think that one's probably okay. 3.4, that one's okay. I'm obviously looking for some that are measuring really high. Like these don't look to be bad. 1 ohm, 1 ohm. See, none of these look to be in really bad shape. So far anyway. It might be that lens was quite dirty, so it might have been dust on the lens. Because these caps certainly don't look to be in bad shape. They all look to be about the same too, with the exception of one that looked a little bit higher than the others. What about this one? If we can get a connection on this one. Is that one open? Maybe we've got a bad one here. Nope, that's not bad. That one's not bad. Hard to get at some of these ones with the probes. Need sharper probes. Those are all looking okay. Well, they're all looking good. There was one over here that measured a little bit higher than the others. 7.1, was that one? Or was it this one? 2.7. 4. 7.3, but that's a 22. Now, that one's a little bit over spec. All the rest of them seem to be 0.7. See, all the rest of them seem to be fine. So perhaps one here that's a little bit high. It's measuring 7.3 and a 22 at 6 volts, 5.4 for a 22 at 10 volts. That's measuring 7.1. That one there may be a little bit high on that one, but all the rest of them really look to be in pretty good shape. So I don't think it's a capacitor problem on here that's causing this to fail. I think maybe the pickup itself was just filthy. That could have been it. could certainly replace that one there. I'm sure I've got a 22 at 10 volts or so. I'm sure I've got one. So I could certainly replace that one. But I don't think that's the problem. I don't think I'm an even bother, you know, because first of all, I don't have one that's physically small enough to fit there. And there's not a lot of room in here, so I don't want to put in one that's too big. But with what it's measured, I really don't think that's going to be the issue anyway. You know, if it was measuring 20 or 30 or, you know, or open, that's one thing, but a new one rating 5 and this one's measuring 7, I don't think that that's going to make much of a difference at that rating anyway. So we'll try putting this thing back together and see whether it will read the disc this time. Also powered up at 100 volts instead of 120, because that's a good way to pop parts, running them at higher voltage. I didn't even think about that when I picked it up. You know, I didn't look at it when I found it. Someone had it listed, and they had it listed at a price, and I gave them a lower price, and they came back halfway, and I didn't respond, and then they said, okay, well, we'll meet you at your price. I offered $10 for this thing. So I figured, okay, well, for $10 it's worth taking a gamble whether I can make it work or not, because I'll make $10 off the video. I might not make much more than $10 off the video, but I should make $10. One thing I also neglected to take into consideration is if there's any switches that detect when the disk is loaded that weren't activating. So they have these top covers on to try to keep the dust out of it, because of course dust is the #1 enemy for electronics, especially optical pickups. Okay, the trick to getting this cover to slip on easy is to put a disc in, because these tabs move back when there's no disc in it. When you load a disc, these tabs move forward to allow the top to drop right on. Otherwise, you're going to be fiddle farting around with this thing. So I put a disc in and then drop the top on and just wound it back down, right? Because this, when it's in the ejected position like this, the top cover doesn't come off. It came off so easy for me before because there was a disc in the unit itself. So keep that in mind. Put a disc in. And turn the gear. This will move into position. I was trying to figure out why I was off camera when I figured out that I had to have a disc in there, because when I took it apart, of course, there was a disc in it. So it came apart real easy. Alright, that's back together. We'll drop this back in, plug it in, and see whether it does anything different than the last time. Judging by how grimy the pickup was, it could have been just a bunch of debris on the optical pickup. That's what I'm hoping anyway. These compact units aren't the easiest thing to work on, but I figured I'd give this thing a shot because I got it, I found it so dirt cheap that I just couldn't resist. And as I say, it's always nice to have a mini disc player that will work. because they're hard to get these days. They haven't made them in years and years, and they're getting kind of scarce. I got a couple mini disc players. I got 3. This will be 4 if this one works. I have an MDS 302. I have a MZ1, and I have that flat system. We'll test it out first and see whether it works. Okay, there's a ribbon connector here, there's an edge connector at the front here, and then there's these 2 plugs that have to go in. Those are for the, I think, the CD player. I'll dial this down to about 100 volts, just so that I'm not going to be cooking it. Nice thing about having the bench on the Variac is that I can set the voltage accordingly. If I'm working on something that requires a lower voltage or a higher voltage, I can dial it down. We'll see what my voltage is here on the voltmeter. $101, that's probably close enough. I'm sure we're in the ballpark for what this thing requires. Let's see if it'll accept the mini disc. Mecha error. Right off the bat it says mecha error. Didn't even accept the disc. That would mean mechanism error, but where just double check everything, make sure everything's plugged in all the way. Need that connector at the front here. I hate these machines. I really do. These mini systems are a pain in the ass. Oh, well, maybe that might, I think that's just audio. That's just the audio cable from the CD player section, not the mini disc, so that won't affect. I mean, technically I shouldn't even have to connect the CD player because it's not being used, but that's just the audio cable to the amplifier. You can see the shielded runs there. So that wouldn't cause it. We'll plug it in just for shits and giggles and see whether that makes that mechanism error go away. Okay. Let's switch it to CD. Alright, back to the drawing board. The dreaded mechanism error. I pulled the mechanism apart again. This thing's got a couple of these stupid pin switches that give us so much trouble. I'm wondering whether one of these pin switches is not signaling correctly. Pin switch is used to determine whether the machine is loaded or unloaded. When you put a disc in, oops, I hope I put the disc in the right place. When you put the disc in and it loads the disc, pin switches close. That switch is closed now. Or does that only go in when it, or does that only close when it goes into record? I was looking at this switch to see what position this pin switch is in. There's a switch, pin switch right in the corner here. I'm just looking to see what that switch does. There's a couple switches on here. Whenever I see these pin switches, I kind of get nervous because they give so much trouble. So I might just give them a shot of cleaner while I've got it apart again, just to make sure that they're not acting up. There's another one right here. There's a pin switch right there. And there's another one over here. And I think there's another one down here. Yeah, there's another one right down here. See, there's a couple more switches here, and these little switches give lots of trouble, especially when they're not used for a while. They give lots of trouble. Give this switch a clean. I'm using neutral, by the way, for those wondering what I'm going to use on to clean the cleaning switches. I'm just going to give them a shot of neutral. Push the disc in here, you'll see this switch closes at the back there. That switch activates when the disc goes in. Oops. Oh no, that'll reset back. At least you guys will get to see how I had to operate this mechanism in order to get this top cover on, because you have to load the disc. So this cover slides back. This one here slides back like that. You have to have it slid back so that you can drop this piece over top. Otherwise, it won't go in place. In order to put the screws in to hold it, the top cover on. It's kind of a stupid design, if you ask me. And then I can spin the gear back to take the disc out. Silly design. Put these two plugs back in. At least this time I can put the two screws in I missed before. Not that they're really gonna matter. One more time. It's like there's no room in here to put this thing in. There we go. Gotta kind of tuck it in behind a capacitor that sticks out on the other side. It also could be parts blown from if it was being operated on 120, which I'm sure it was over a period of time. Components could have been damaged from that. It's hard to tell, but I didn't pay much for it, so I'm not going to lose any sleep over if it doesn't work. And if I don't get it now, it doesn't mean that I won't get it. It just means that I'm not going to work on it anymore today. I've spent enough time on it already. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, I'll just try to find some more info on the unit itself, like manuals or so forth, or any data I can find on it. They snap together relatively easy. Okay, mini disc. We'll take the disc in. Not doing anything. Oh, wait a minute, it took the disc in. Mecha error, same as before. Now it won't release the disc. Yeah, that's right where we were before. Same error that when I got it. So there's definitely something wrong with the mechanism here. Will it eject, or do I have to take it apart to get the disc out? Yeah, same thing. Mecha error. Alright, well, I'm going to pull this thing apart again, I guess, to get this disc out. Maybe I can coax the disc into coming out, pushing buttons. I don't think so. I think it's stuck. Okay, I was able to retrieve my disc without taking it all apart again. Still had to pull the front off it though to wind the disc out because the disc would just not eject. But the CD player works, so the radio works. So I'm sure I'll get my $10 out of it because I'm going to turn around and just put this thing back up. I think for sell it the way I got it. How do I make this play? Play. There we go. Would have been nice if the mini disc worked, but it doesn't. So, oh well. Can't win them all. I think this time, I think it's fairly safe to say that I got burned on Facebook. Yep, I got burned on Facebook this time for sure. But I didn't get burned that much. I know people that have been burned a lot worse than that, but I still got burned. I mean, yeah, okay, it works as a CD player, but I was hoping for a mini disc player. Just because the fact that mini disc players are kind of scarce and they're getting harder to get. And I was hoping it was going to be a relatively simple fix, but I don't think that's going to be the case on this one. I think that we got a problem. The very fact that someone's been in there, I don't know, maybe they've damaged one of those ribbon cables. I mean, the switches all look like they're being red. I cleaned them, but it's a mechanism error or communication error between the mechanism and the CPU. So, a little bit more involved. Maybe we'll pick this up again at a future date and get lucky. But for now, I'm just going to throw it together. Also, the fact that it's only a 100 volt unit. Had I bothered to look when I picked it up. I bought it from someone and they just said, I'll leave it out back, leave the money in the mailbox, which I did. And I didn't really take a close look at it. I just kind of grabbed it and left. Had I looked closer at it, see it was a 100 volt model, then I probably would have thought twice about it, because operating it at 120 volts, all the voltages are going to be a little bit high for every circuit, so it's going to be hard on them, right? So that could have been ultimately what caused the problem. Don't know. So anyway, I got burned. It happens to the best of us. I'll probably just put it back up as a CD player that works like I bought it. Mini disc doesn't work. Selling its parts. Anyway, that's it. Goes back together, and we'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching.